Beef Netflix series, which hit the streaming service nearly 2 weeks ago. The show is about two people who let a road rage incident burrow into their minds and slowly consume their every thought and action. The two people who get into this road rage is Amy Lau, played by Ali Wong, a wealthy plant owner who's trying to close a deal with very wealthy Jordan, played by Maria Bello, and Ali Wong's character, Amy Lau, gets into a road rage accident with Danny Cho, played by Steven Yeun, who's a struggling construction worker who is trying to buy a land which he cannot afford for his parents. The show is 10 episodes long. Its shortest episode of the series is 30 minutes long, to the longest episode, which is 39 minutes long. Welcome back to a brand new TV show review here on Max Talks. We're talking about Beef. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, ring the bell. We're almost at 150 subscribers, so ring that bell if you're new to the channel, and subscribe because you'll get notified on all my videos when they drop. Comment down below, first of all, have you seen Beef yet on Netflix? If you have, let me know, what are your thoughts, non-spoiler fashion? I'll let you know why in just a second. If you have not, tell me why. Have you not heard a buzz about this show? If you do start watching the show because of this review, let me know in the comment section. And please like the video, guys. The thumbs up button, that is how you support this channel. So I was really excited. I didn't really hear much about Beef, and then until a week after its release, it was just trending on Twitter. A lot of the entertainment people that I follow were talking about it. I was like, I got to watch the show because I really do love Ali Wong and Steven Yeun. I love Ali Wong's stand-up, and I really loved Always Be My Maybe, a Netflix film that she made back in 2019. And obviously, Steven Yeun is fantastic. I'm a huge Invincible fan, so to hear his voice again is great, but just saw him in Nope as well. So he's a fantastic actor. And also the news that this whole creative team will be doing the Thunderbolts movie for the MCU, and Steven Yeun will be coming with them. Hopefully Ali Wong has some part of that movie as well, but that's why I was invested in it. I knew it was a kind of a comedy, and I just want to say my positives and negatives and my score. And as I said in the comment section, this will be a non-spoiler review. Because I really want to talk about the show in spoiler fashion. I will do a spoiler review on Friday. There's no big movies coming out this week, so I'm doing 2 reviews of Beef. So this will be a non-spoiler review for those who have not watched it, or if you have watched it, just tell my general thoughts on the show, because this spoiler review will be all about the specifics of what happens towards the end of the show and all that type of stuff. So I think the show is really fantastic. It's fresh, it's original. It can be seen as a lot of different ways. It can be a comedy to a lot of people. It can be a dark comedy, a dramedy, a romantic comedy. There's just a lot of different elements that are at play here, because this all centers on a road rage that affects their lives to 1,000,000,000,000 degrees. It is a road rage incident that really changes their lives kind of forever. And again, I'm not going to get into any spoilers, but the 2 performances here are really fantastic. And obviously, there would be no show without these absolutely special performances in the show. Ali Wong is fantastic as Amy. Amy's a very complicated character in the show. She has this great business going on. She has a really good and supportive husband. Now, obviously, he is a very flawed person as well. And her husband, who's also a big part of the show, George, played by Joseph Lee, who I'll get to in a second. He's also terrific in the show. But Ali Wong does play this character with a lot of innocence. This could easily be an unlikable character who you're not rooting for, but Ali Wong has that charm, that charisma to her, that for some reason, a character that you probably wouldn't be rooting for, you are some reason caring about the livelihood of her character. These are 2 characters, Steven Yeun's character and Ali Wong's character, who have made a lot of just life-changing major mistakes to people. If that's people close to them, for the majority of the time, it's big mistakes for the people closest to them. If that's Amy to her husband, George, or if that's Danny to his younger brother, Paul, who's played by, hopefully I'm saying his name right, Young Mazzino, who is also fantastic in the show. or just in their lives, they make key mistakes that normally people, you don't get those second chances. You don't find those people that relate to those type of mistakes. And there was a lot of good authenticity in the show. Again, it is a breath of fresh air that for the most part, this is an all Asian cast. The writer is Asian as well. Ling Sun Jin, who is the creator of the show, who also, as I said, will be writing the Thunderbolts movie for the MCU, which is a very big deal for him. I also wrote episodes of Dave as well. But the authenticity really comes through on screen. And the duality of both these characters, they are on screen a lot during the show, but really it's two storylines that we are following for the entire show. And they're both equally as compelling. And one's on the wealthy end of the spectrum, and one's on the very much poor, desperate end of the spectrum. And Steven Yeun is fantastic. Again, another guy who is playing a character who probably on the page is a horrible person. And the more the show goes on, the more he's making life decisions that are irredeemable, especially for a couple of relationships. But again, both are coming at things from completely different perspectives. And for some, and one person, really Ali Wong's character, with money-wise, has everything to lose. She has a husband, she has a daughter, she has a whole business, she has a house, she has all of this comfort. And Danny's character has none of that. He has no comfortability. He barely can work. He's trying to provide not just for himself, but for his brother, with parents who just aren't that supportive of him, that deem success to be enough for them to get back into his life. And I do feel like both of these characters have a lot of good dualities to each other. They're both on the completely end of the spectrum in class and system, which I find really amazing in the show. Danny, again, both characters are some of the most extremely flawed characters who are a lead character on a show. I can't remember last time. These are very flawed characters who could be villains on their own shows, but they're not. They are. You also find the best of people. I think that's a good. There's a lot of great themes, messaging going on, finding the right person, getting second chances, knowing who to trust around you. There's so many themes in this show that I think they absolutely nail. And it's really because of the two dynamic, captivating, charismatic lead performances. When Yeun and Wong do share the screen together, it is highly entertaining. They're very quippy back and forth. The show is definitely a dark comedy. And there's obviously, of course, in-your-face type jokes, but I was laughing throughout probably every single episode of the show because dark comedy is my type of comedy, I guess. And this show can get really dark and go to different levels. But what the show does so well, which it really could have fallen flat on, this is from a writing level, is it is a simple road rage. The road rage itself, which you'll see in the show and you see in the trailers, it's nothing out of the ordinary of probably a regular road rage. But it keeps the ridiculousness of not the ridiculousness, but the situation continues to unfold in bigger and bigger ways, episode by episode. The show gets crazier and crazier episode by episode. And you still have to keep it in reality that these things aren't forced into the show to pad a 10-episode runtime. And it never felt forced. It felt the show was very much on the path. This thing has to set up this thing. It didn't feel like they were making up storylines to keep the show going. It was very impressive. And one of the most daring season finales of a comedy show I've seen in a long time is the season finale for this show, which when I was watching, I was thinking, it's just genius. Now, can I see a lot of people not liking it? Sure. But the finale for me is pure genius. And the writing on the show is excellent. The two lead performances, let me get to the other performances. Just as I said, Joseph Lee as George, another character who on the page could just be the good husband, but they give him a lot of flaws to his character as well. He also has he has money, he has comfort as well. He also really cares about his daughter, and he really cares just about his wife being happy. And there's a lot of times where even if Ali Wong, you're rooting for Ali Wong, George can be in the right. I do like that a lot. Paul's another great character. And again, his chemistry with his brother, who's played by Steven Yeun, the both of them have great chemistry. Even though it seems like they have a pretty big age gap, you don't really feel that in the show. Now, I don't want to get into the controversy of David Cho. I know all the controversy surrounding that guy, but on the show, he's very good. Another good performance in the show is Maria Bello, who is highly entertaining as this kind of over the top, rich. I guess she's like a millionaire, or billionaire. She is fantastic, and in the show, as well as her relationship with Ashley Park is really good. The performances are great, but it all comes down to the writing. This is a fresh, original show, and it's also a simple plot line where it just starts on a road rage and it kind of goes on from there. The freshness, it really is the simplicity that takes place into the rareness and the uniqueness of this situation. So for me, this is easily going to be one of my favorite shows of the year. It was a fascinating watch, and I just can't wait to get into spoiler talk with you guys. I do want to say there are some parts in the show from a negative level. As I said, for most of the show, there is sometimes, as I said, it doesn't feel forced. But I would have loved even more background on George and his family. I know he's not the center point of the show. We get George and his mom, and George's wealth and comfortability. I would have liked a little bit more detail on George. I think that also could have really enhanced it. And George is great on the show, but I think a little more detail into George, I think would have actually elevated the relationship between George and Amy, and why George does his mistakes in the show. I do think there's a little bit of explanation there. They also do quickly kind of drop the church storyline towards the end of the show. It's one of my favorite little storylines that happens in the show with Danny's character. But for the last 2 episodes, it's pretty much dropped, which I wasn't a huge fan of. But overall, guys, this is a fantastic show on Netflix. It's funny, it's heartfelt. It could really annoy you because the characters are making such obvious, life-changing mistakes that are really harmful. But for some reason, while these 2 characters on the page could be unlikable, I found myself rooting for them individually and together. So overall, I'm going to give Beef a 4.5 out of 5. I'm going to go 92% for Beef. Really love the show. Can't talk spoilers very soon. So I'll talk to you guys soon. That's my review of Beef.